In the excerpt Under Scrutiny, Bram Stoker staged the meeting between the narrator, Jonathan Harker, who has come to Transylvania to finalize the purchase of an estate by his host, the eponymous Count, who is a foreigner to him. Harker reaches the end of his journey to face up to his destination, a seemingly impenetrable antique fortress. Then, he expects to discover the comfortable accommodations inside. As the plot thus revolves around both an illusion of danger and a delusion of safety on the part of Jonathan Harker, we shall pay attention to the thresholds and the atmosphere that they build up, as Harker enters Dracula's universe apparently to never return.
Just as I had come to this conclusion, I heard a heavy step approaching behind the great door, and saw through the chinks the gleam of a coming light. Then there was the sound of rattling chains and the clanking of massive bolts drawn back. A key was turned with the loud grating noise of long disuse, and the great door swung back. Within stood a tall old man, clean-shaven, save for a long white moustache, and clad in black from head to foot, without a single speck of colour about him anywhere. He held in his hand an antique silver lamp in which the flame burnt without chimney or globe of any kind, throwing long, quivering shadows as it flickered in the draught of the opening door. The old man motioned me in with his right hand, with a courtly gesture, saying in excellent English, but with a strange intonation, "Welcome to my house. Enter freely and of your own will." He made no motion of stepping to meet me, but stood like a statue, as though his gesture of welcome had fixed him into stone. The instant, however, that I had stepped over the threshold, he moved impulsively forward, and holding out his hand grasped mine with a strength which made me wince, an effect which was not lessened by the fact that it seemed as cold as ice, more like the hand of a dead than a living man. Again he said, "Welcome to my house. Come freely, go safely, and live something of the happiness you bring." The strength of the handshake was so much akin to that which I had noticed in the driver, whose face I had not seen, that for a moment I doubted if it were not the same person to whom I was speaking. So, to make sure, I said interrogatively, "Count Dracula?"
What strikes first when we read the excerpt is the fact that there is an uncanny atmosphere. Literary critic Zvetan Todorov once defined the uncanny as follows. In the uncanny, the supernatural phenomena turns out to have a rational explanation. We can see that our excerpt is uncanny, mostly because of a blurred atmosphere conveyed, for example, through the image of the quivering shadows. The blur is not only referential though, as it is also to be seen because of the focalization. Here we have a homodiegetic narrator, Harker, whom we follow. As readers, we follow the plot through his impressions, the impressions of an eye. Yet, Harker's reliability could be queried, as he seems full of doubts. Everything he perceives is for him an occasion to be frightened. A rational element, Dracula's hand being as cold as ice, because of the coldness of the place, has Harker wondering about Dracula and being doubtful. Thus, we could say that Harker is for us a kind of filter, the blur being first epitomized by his blurred impressions. He is an eye struggling against his own mind, stuck in stasis, that is to say, unable to move. When Dracula beckons him to enter his house, he only says something interrogatively and is unable to cross the threshold.
The main element of this extract is indeed the threshold of the castle's entrance door, as it opens a door to a plurality of possible readings based on the Deleuze's rhizome, an image of thought that apprehends multiplicities. Thus, the first door that opens to us is the cultural one, with the clash between the symbol of the civilized white man that Harker represents, doubled by the emblem of his function as a solicitor in England, and the symbol of the foreigner damaged by progress that Dracula represents. This feeling can be found in the cynical, even xenophobic comment in excellent English, but with strange intonation. The second may be the link between the play on sight and sound, which crystallizes in the fatigue statements. Dracula's welcome confuses Harker's senses with suspicious of the natural and is reassured by what should alarm him, the hand of a dead rather than a living man, for example. The last of the doors allows a reading focused on the heart for heart's sake that asks wide defense. This extract plays on the stage and backstage. Indeed, everyone suspects his archer doom thanks to the clues offered to the reader, except him. What matters is not the story, but the thread it follows that makes the reader wants to read on. Last but not least, we could expatiate on the question of identity as the threshold is to be found in Harker and Dracula themselves.
The excerpt shows Dracula's first move after being fixed into stone. That can be thought as the beginning of Harker and Dracula's interaction. This moment is followed by two narrative sentences. The first grammatically places Harker as Dracula's object. His hand-grasped mine is one of the occurrences of Dracula holding Harker. Then we can read that Harker can be the subject of a sentence, but only by being doubtful and forced to use the pluperfect. I had noticed, I doubted. Finally, he wonders who's in front of him, being completely lost. The pluperfect accentuates the fact that Harker doesn't exist anymore, that he lost his subjectivity. He's only able to be in a fading memory of himself, or at the host beck and call. The particular narration of the events seems to have a fundamental impact on the story because the multiple thresholds end up to be also internal frontiers. When Dracula moves, he holds Harker and makes him disappear, taking the upper hand on him. Paradoxically enough, Dracula's identity is queried too, as is reified, said to be fixed into stone. This phenomenon explains simultaneously the internal perturbation of the story and the complex relationship between the characters. In the end, the narrative seems to slide from the simply unusual to the dark and strange, as the thresholds prove to be the basis of the interactions.
To finish with, we hope that you've seen how far we could go into the detail while analyzing an excerpt that, if it seems to be only uncanny by its atmosphere, is rather representing several thresholds. As those thresholds are here crossed, being literally or metaphorically, one could argue that this excerpt represents the actual beginning of the action.